She arrived on a Tuesday with 3 suitcases. Not invited, not discussed, not preceded by a conversation in which she had asked, and I had considered, and we had reached an agreement. Simply arrived, with 3 suitcases and the particular certainty of someone who has made a decision and is presenting it as already complete. My mother's name is Diane. She is 67 years old. She is, I want to be precise, because precision matters in this story. Not a cruel woman. Not deliberately unkind, but a woman who has spent 67 years operating from the assumption that her decisions are correct and that the people around her will adjust accordingly. She knocked on my door at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. I opened it. She was standing on my front step with a rolling suitcase on each side of her and a carry-on bag over her shoulder. She was wearing the expression she wears when she has done something she knows requires managing a particular combination of brightness and forward momentum, the face of someone who believes that enthusiasm can substitute for permission. "I've been thinking," she said, "and I've decided it makes the most sense for me to move in with you." I looked at the suitcases. "When did you decide this?" I said. "Recently," she said. "It just makes sense. The apartment is expensive, and you have the extra room, and it would be good for both of us." She picked up the carry-on bag, the particular gesture of someone preparing to cross a threshold they have already decided to cross. "Mom," I said. "The room at the end of the hall is perfect," she said. "I always thought that room got wonderful light." "Mom," I said again. "I'll need to bring a few more boxes," she said. "But the essentials are here. I can set up today and—" "You need to stop," I said. She stopped, looked at me. The brightness flickered slightly, the particular flicker of someone whose forward momentum has encountered something it did not anticipate. "I'm your mother," she said. "I know," I said, "and I love you. And you cannot move into my home without a conversation." "We're having a conversation," she said. "You're telling me something you've decided," I said. "That's not the same thing." She looked past me, into the house, and then, in the particular way that some people have of making you feel like the obstacle rather than the person whose home is being entered without permission. Her eyes softened. "I'm your mother," she said again. "Surely—" "Come in," I said. She came in. She did not see what was already there. Sitting in my living room, in the chair by the window, with a notepad and the particular composed expression of someone who has been expecting this moment and is entirely prepared for it. My attorney, my mother's suitcase handle went still in her hand. Let me take you back, because my mother did not arrive on a Tuesday with 3 suitcases, without a history that explained it, and I did not have an attorney sitting in my living room without a history that explained that too. The history goes back 18 months. 18 months ago, my mother's lease on her apartment ended. The building was converting. The particular circumstance of a rental, property that has been sold and is becoming something else and whose tenants are given notice and a timeline, and the genuine inconvenience of having to find somewhere new. My mother had called me. "I'm going to need to stay with you," she had said. "Just for a little while, until I find something." I had said yes, because she was my mother, and she needed somewhere to be, and I had the room and the particular instinct of a daughter who loves her mother and wants to help. She had moved in the following month. A little while became 3 months, then 5, then 8. Then when I had begun, gently and then less gently, to raise the subject of her finding her own place, a conversation I recognized as the beginning of a permanent arrangement that I had not agreed to. My mother is, and I say this with the complicated love of a daughter who knows her parent clearly, a woman who expands into whatever space is available to her, not maliciously, simply as a matter of nature. Given room, she fills it. Given an inch, she does not take a mile. She simply stops noticing where the inch ended. In 8 months, she had rearranged my kitchen, not dramatically, but sufficiently that I could no longer find things in the places I had always kept them. Established a television schedule that had effectively claimed the living room between the hours of 7 and 10 p.m. Commented regularly in the particular way of someone who believes they are being helpful. On my diet, my sleep schedule, my social life, and my relationship with a man named David whom she had met twice and had decided, on the basis of those 2 meetings, was not right for me. And when I had, finally and after 8 months, and the particular accumulation of small things that becomes, in aggregate, something significant, told her that I needed her to find her own place, and given her a timeline, she had agreed, and then had not found her own place. And then the timeline had passed. And then she had moved out. And then she had arrived on a Tuesday with 3 suitcases. The attorney's name was Patricia Walsh. I had called her 3 days before. The Tuesday, 3 days after my mother had called me to announce that she had been thinking and that she wanted to discuss long-term arrangements. I had heard long-term arrangements and called Patricia. Patricia had explained something I had not known, something about the laws of tenancy, about the rights that a person acquires when they live in a home for a certain period of time, about the particular legal complexity of a situation in which a parent has been in residence for 8 months and then returns, and about what steps needed to be taken before that return happened rather than after. I had taken those steps. Patricia was sitting in my living room when my mother walked through my door. My mother looked at her. Patricia looked at my mother. "Mrs. Diane," Patricia said. "I'm Patricia Walsh. I represent your daughter. Could you take a seat?" My mother sat, slowly, with the particular deliberateness of someone who is recalibrating rapidly. What followed was not a confrontation. I want to be clear about that, because confrontation was not what I wanted, not what I had planned, not what Patricia was there for. What followed was a conversation, conducted clearly, professionally, with the particular calm of someone who has all the relevant information and is simply sharing it. Patricia explained the legal situation, the tenancy considerations, the documentation I had prepared during the 8 months of my mother's previous residence, documentation of the arrangement, of the timeline, of the communications about finding a new place, the formal notice that had been sent by certified mail 2 days earlier, the legal framework within which my mother's return, without prior agreement, without discussion, simply with suitcases, did not proceed as she had apparently planned. My mother listened. Her expression moved through several things. Surprise, the first, the genuine surprise of someone who had not anticipated this particular obstacle. Then calculation, the brief, visible calculation of someone assessing the situation and looking for the adjustment that makes it workable, then something that was harder to watch. The particular deflation of someone who has operated from certainty for a long time and has encountered something their certainty cannot move. "I'm her mother," she said, to Patricia, as if Patricia did not know this. "I understand," Patricia said, "and that relationship is not in question. What is in question is the terms under which a return to residence might be arranged, and those terms need to be discussed and agreed to before any move takes place." "Discussed," my mother said. "Yes," Patricia said. My mother looked at me, and I looked back at her, with the particular steadiness of someone who has loved a person for their entire life and has finally stopped letting that love mean the absence of limits. The suitcases went back to her car. Not immediately. These things do not happen immediately. What happened immediately was a conversation, a long one, in my living room with Patricia present, covering things that my mother and I had never directly discussed in the 18 months that had preceded this Tuesday. What living together would look like if it happened, what the terms would be, what my home was and what it was not, what I was willing to offer and what I was not willing to give up. My mother was, I want to be accurate, not gracious about it. Not at first. The first 40 minutes were difficult in the particular way of a conversation with someone who has been operating without accountability for a long time and is being asked to account. She said things that were designed to produce guilt, about sacrifice, about what she had given, about what daughters owed. I let her say them, and when she was finished I said, "Mom, I love you." That is not in question. What is in question is whether this home is mine. And it is mine. and anyone who lives in it, including you, needs to agree to that before they move in." She looked at me for a long time. "You had a lawyer here," she said. "You were prepared for this." "Yes," I said. "You expected me to come?" she said. "You called me 3 days ago to discuss long-term arrangements," I said. I prepared. Something shifted in her expression. The calculation and the deflation both passed, and what replaced them, slowly, honestly, was something that looked more like recognition. "You're not going to let me just move in," she said. "No," I said. "I'm not. Because you're afraid I'll—" "Because it's my home," I said. "And decisions about who lives in it are mine to make, not yours." She was quiet. Patricia had been quiet for the past 20 minutes. She had done what she came to do, and the rest of it belonged to my mother and me. What would it look like? My mother said finally, "If I were here, what would the terms be?" And we talked. Really talked, for the first time possibly, about what living together would actually require from both of us. Not the version my mother had imagined, where she arrived and arranged and filled the available space, the actual version, with actual agreements. She went home that day, with her suitcases. She called me that evening, not to argue, to continue the conversation. More honestly than the afternoon had managed, we worked out an arrangement over the following 2 weeks, a trial period, specific agreements written down, which my mother initially resisted and which I held firm on, about the kitchen, about the television, about the room at the end of the hall and the light. It got in what it would and would not mean, for it to be hers. She moved in 6 weeks after the Tuesday, with 3 suitcases and a conversation that had preceded them. Patricia's paperwork is in a folder in my desk drawer. I have not needed it since. I do not expect to need it, but I know it is there. My mother rearranged one shelf in the kitchen. I noticed. I said something. She put it back. Small, real, ours. Here is what 3 suitcases and a Tuesday, morning and a lawyer in a living room chair taught me. Love without limits is not love. It is a slow erosion of the self, offered in the name of love, accepted as love, but costing something that love should never cost. You can love someone completely and still say, "This is my home. These are my terms. This is what I need in order to share this space with you." That is not withholding love. That is knowing what love can sustain. My mother said she was moving in. She didn't see the lawyer behind me. And what the lawyer helped me say, clearly legally, with documentation and a trial period and one rearranged shelf put back in its place, was simply this: "I love you, and this is my home." Both of those things, at the same time.